So for an employer to ask an employee to take off the clothes on your upper body, presumably he's meaning a topless picture. Again, how does that have anything to do with the job? Then there are the questions about what is her favourite position? Not relevant to the job, her job at all. Quite a lot of questions about her favourite sexual position.
It has an impact on the intellectual output, which is what is required here. We actually could have called anyone if we wanted views of people who sympathize with men who harass or victims who are harassed. We could have called anybody. We could have called a journalist. We could have called anybody. We called you. You were called. And we respected that you are called. Because you were going to offer us what an intellectual should offer, why you are a cut above us. It's because you read everything, including what does not make your case. That's what makes you different from us. We read what we like, we discard what we don't. As an intellectual, your analysis is deficient if you've declared what you've declared. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm saying it's deficient, does not meet the standard called objective. You agree with me?
Hola, hola, magenye. It's Blaze. Welcome back to another installment of The Rumblings of a Madman. Yeah, ish. Kifeditse kazigela, so yeah, it's been a while since I recorded anything. What would be nice or nicer than someone just speaking into a mic? Now that I'm free, as gela sakin. No, hell. Anyway, yeah, what you just heard there again, it was the voices of two people, ne? What you heard there. So the voice that you heard in the beginning, Dr. Lisa Vetten, and then that's the lady, and then the voice that you had, Kamaramoki, gentleman advocate, or I think they call them senior counsel, right? Advocate Moses Kekan. And yeah, that's regarding the so-called tribunal that is being held against Judge President of the Eastern Cape, Judge Selby Mbenenge. Benengiza. Yeah. So, so if you've been following this case for, I think personally I've been following it since the beginning of the year. Yeah, we had some very exciting things coming from that tribunal. You know, it's I would say, as much as we laugh about the things that have been said in the tribunal, I think any of us and many of us, if we were to have our texts, read out to the world, it would be the same kind of thing. So everything always seems very embarrassing and shocking when you are not the star of that conversation. But yeah, so basically it's that trial. And yeah, maybe I might want to talk about it. Yeah, there were so many things that happened the past few weeks, right? And I think this is the one that we can talk about. So I know that there was flooding in the eastern region or Eastern Cape. I know that that whole thing of Floyd, it's a sholozing, I think that should be the new term, Floyd sholozing the MK, which means that you actively work against a party whilst you are part of it. And then finding some sort of loophole where they can't actually expel you. So that's what happened since the last time I recorded this. And then there was this whole US and Ukraine stuff, right? So that one, I think it requires a segment on its own. And then there's the work that Mr. Sushi is doing there. Ko Gauteng, I think, not Gauteng, man. Ko Jozi. Mr. Sushi Nojinanakiri, he's the acting executive mayor of the city of Johannesburg, Tate Kenny Kunene. Yeah, man, it's surprising. That guy is doing a lot of work there, dealing with buildings that have been hijacked. But why let me cook? How can you I cook kara a flat, bruh? Like, but why did he pause it? So there's a lot of things that he's dealing with there, and also dealing with illegal migrants and all those other things. And then yeah, there's this Mkonanzi stuff too that has happened. And then I think what I found the most interesting in Mbenenge, I think maybe I want to talk about that one because I have I've been following it for a while. Every other thing, the developments are not they have not fruitioned yet. So this is not a news outlet. I think what I'm trying to do is to discuss issues and just discuss whatever's happening in my life at the time. So if you want to wash dishes and you want to listen to someone, yeah, just play me, bruh, and then hear a madman talking to a mic. So there are cases in Tottenham, so we can't talk about Nhlanhla now. Left, give me Lieutenant General Nhlanhla Nene. So not Nene, man. Why didn't you get a Nene? Oh, Nene was the minister. Kanekima, Mkonanzi. Yeah, Mkonanzi. So we can't talk about him because there's a lot of things that are still happening. The news is still fresh. But let's talk about Judge President Mbenenge. So I think the history is this. This lady one day woke up and said that she has suffered sexual harassment from the judge president, and this includes like unwanted sexual and advance and inappropriate behavior, including exposure of private parts. That's what I've gathered. I've not read this from any docket or whatever, but I think from the from the sessions that happen online, those are some of the accusations that I've heard coming out of that tribunal. And yeah, man, it's very interesting. So the voices that you had, like I said in the beginning, Dr. Lisa Vetten. So it was in the stage of the tribunal. What they have done is that I think they're called prosecutors. I don't know what's the difference between a normal court, whatever, and a tribunal, whatever. So the people who are on the prosecutor side, so on the side of the complainant, as they call it, uh, the Batiste, a gender violence expert, healing that doctor that you had, Dr. Lisa Vetten. And then obviously after that, you see or you hear Advovo Moses Kekani addressing some of the issues. And I remember that one, I had followed that piece of the tribunal quite closely. So what effectively happened is this Dr. Lisa Vetten was brought in as an subject matter expert to look at the case Mengo versus Judge President Mbenenge and objectively give an opinion about what's happening. Unfortunately, and this is why I think I want to talk about what happened in that part of the tribunal with between Dr. Lisa Vetten and Advovo Moses Kekan, that her biases were clearly shown, right? Clearly showed how can you be a gender-based expert and also an activist in those Ntotabome, whatever, right? And then come up and say you're going to give evidence in a tribunal. Fine, maybe a lot of people can somehow work out their biases and give an honest opinion about what they find in their hands, what's in front of them. Unfortunately, she failed miserably to do that. And that's why you hear advocates kind of saying what she has done and what she has admitted to in the tribunal would not meet the standard of objective. And if they just wanted someone who sympathizes with ladies and women and the plight of women, which are genuine plights, right? But if they wanted someone to come and be an activist in the tribunal, they could have just gotten anyone. They could have even gotten a journalist. So what essentially happened is this. Mil read through the WhatsApp messages for how many years? Like it's been like guy. But they took a record of those WhatsApp messages. The people who took them or the people who provided those records are Karigibuma, are the people on the side of the complainant, so the prosecutors. I think I don't know what you call those lawyers in the context of a tribunal. So please forgive me. I'll call them prosecutors for now. So they gave the evidence to to Lisa Vetten to overlook, but already calling her because they know that she is on the side of Bomme, right? Already. So obviously you want her advice or her insights to be leaning towards your case, which is to say that yes, Judge President did actually sexually harass Mengo, and yeah, that gray haired guy is a problem. That's what they were trying to do. But in so doing, ah man, Advocate Skekhan is such a logician, man. Such a logician, someone who can really read, right? I think I have friends who are very good in logic. I'm slightly good in logic, but personally, I'm just lazy to read, and I think my friends are lazy to read. But Advocate Skekani has that unique gift of just reading mountains of evidence and seeing inconsistencies. So what he basically found out is that this lady, yes, went through the WhatsApp messages, however, chose not to read certain portions of the evidence. So, and then on top of that, she read into the messages. So there's parts where advocate rhetorically asks her, "So you're an expert in emojis. Like, how can you infer what an emoji means?" So a peeled banana. Why are you insinuating that a peeled banana is is kidozo? You know, sorry. Why are you assuming those things? So are you also a subject matter expert in emojis? Now, great move by advocates Kekana, but I think he was being unfair, right? So it doesn't mean that one has to be an expert in all things in order for them to comment on them, right? He's a lawyer, and he's a lawyer in different kinds of cases. It does not mean that he's an expert in the particular contents of the cases itself. So if he's defending a criminal, it doesn't mean that in order for him to defend criminals, he has to be a criminal himself. That would be absurd, right? So I would say it was a smart move on his end, but logically I could say, nah, it doesn't hold. We can make determinations, we can make comments on things that we are not necessarily subject matter experts. Like we don't have qualifications for those things. We can just infer, we can read, we can use common sense or local sense, or generic sense. We can use some of that thing to infer and make conclusions. But either way, it was smart on his end. But yeah, he showed the inconsistencies that not Judge Vetten, Dr. Vetten followed, right? Is that you had a set of evidence that missed certain parts that would have at least added nuance to the case. So I still don't know what is out on that. Like I wouldn't know if to say that the judge is guilty or not. So I don't know anything about that. I have my own opinions, and I'll share them a bit later. But her evidence, the evidence that she was given and that she focused on, of course, it would have came out as if the judge president is a sexually hungry maniac, right? It didn't capture the nuance of the situation and say, right, yeah, but what about this part? What about when Miss Mengo said this? What about when Miss Mengo did that? Right? This doesn't make sense. All of those other things. So it just totally skewed her evidence, or the testimony and or the insights that she gave. And by so doing, it she lost credibility in the tribunal. So let's say that she's an is a subject matter expert in these GBV things, even though she is an activist too, so she has a bias, but she'd be able to give clear guidance and insights without being biased, right? So she can declare her bias, but then say, look, these are the methods that I'm following in order to substantiate my claims. She could do that, right? And that would be fair. However, already from that angle of saying there's certain parts of evidence that you do not consider, did not read, you lost objectivity. So it's like went out and made an experiment, and you want an experiment to work out some sort of way. So you, in a calculated and Jesuit way, you omitted some of the findings, right, in your paper, and then just show what you want. I'm laughing because this reminds me of certain things go in our careers that we have seen in the recent past. But but yeah, that's basically what she did, and she lost credibility there. And yeah, man, I guess then we can segue into just this new phenomena, right? Actually, new, I mean, new in the context of human history, the phenomena of men and women sharing the same workspace, and the kind of implications that it comes with. So, I'm a Christian who is a strong believer in ontology and teleology. So, I believe in design. I believe that things can be best explained by the purpose that they exist for. And men and women are 100% compatible with each other and they are made for each other. And they can't do anything but be drawn to each other and try to build a family with each other. That's what they are designed for theologically. But because we are human, we have a free choice. We can therefore act outside of the things that we are designed to a certain extent. So that's basically what I mean when I say I believe in teleology. And then when I talk about ontology, I just mean that you have to really look at the substance of a thing and understand it. So what do we mean, at least in this case, in a very light way? What does it we mean when you say a woman and a man and attraction and sex? You know, so I believe in those terms. And yeah, there's this unique problem that we are facing ever since the Industrial Revolution. I'll say maybe the third part of it. So that's like after World War II, when computers are coming a thing, which that was one thing. So they allowed women to be able to participate in this heavy machinery world. So we're now using PCs for certain parts of this production. But also we know that things changed in after World War II, particularly in America, because women had a taste of participating in that new economy, which is an industrialized economy, when they were making rivets and all of those other things for the aeroplanes. I think, I don't know, maybe the people who are allowing these things as politicians could predict these kind of things would happen. I don't know, but I find it amazing that people find it amazing that issues of sexual harassment are a common theme in the workspace. Because I'm working with women, bruh. It's like this whole thing of saying that someone is a professional. I don't even know what it means. Professional means that there is policies in the company, and then you follow them, and then you do your job. That's one thing. But bruh, I can't switch my brain off when I see that woman is beautiful. And the same thing for her, right? She can't just switch off and say, "Oh, I don't like Blaze or whatever. She doesn't find me attractive." Like these things can and will happen because we're in a confined space and we see each other regularly. We probably see our colleagues more than we see anyone else in our lives. Because even if you go to your family, you're arriving in the evening and you're going to bed, and then you might spend some time with them during the weekend. But from Monday to Friday, for most people, that you spend most of your awake time with these people that you call my colleagues. And historically, if someone or a man would see a woman anywhere, milling, chatting, whatever, and they had an attraction towards her, normal things would transpire. So, mfetho o tla tswa a ntshe slavai, a tswe break, a bue le mamang, a mo freye, and based on how she feels about the situation, she could either entertain the guy or not entertain the guy. In the case that she entertains the guy, all good and well. In the case that she doesn't entertain the guy, uh, okay, fine, bruh, ke Batista, hawa popa. So you know that you're being rejected, and then we keep it moving. And that would be like a life of a girl to a certain stage. Maybe she gets married, and depending on the kind of cultures that we have, people respect marriage, and then people would kind of reduce or stop bothering her from there on. But as long as she was someone who is not married, she became a viable candidate for men to want to be with her and create a family, because that's what we are designed to do. We can't help it. We are drawn to each other, teleologically, that is. So that would happen. I That has happened. This thing happens in South Africa, it happens in China, it happens in America, it happens in the jungles of Brazil. That's what I'm saying is teleological, it's by design. These things have been happening for thousands of years. However, now, for whatever reason, when this work situation that we now have, where we all work in the same space, different from the spaces that we had historically, where men and women worked together to conquer the world, but they were in different spheres. So let's say we were a river city. We built our city by a river. There's fertile land. What would happen is that maybe a lot of the men would be fishermen, a lot of the men would be uh, people who look after cattle and sheep, and then they'll do some sort of agriculture stuff, right? If they're not doing any agriculture stuff, they will look for pastures, right? So Banonka, their herds, they'll go for long distances where they will feed their herds and then come back after a few months. And as those things are happening, ladies were taking care of other things, which means that after we have done the harvest as a whole community, men, women, and kids, we have to preserve the food. So if we have the grains, we're gonna dry them. So the men carry the big barrels of grains and all those other things, and we all work to remove, the grains from that sheaf thingy. And yeah, then the grinding happens and whatever. And some of the ladies are grinding, yes, and some of the ladies are doing the drying. When it comes to fruits, they are peeling the fruits, they are storing the fruits in jars that allow for some sort of fermentation or preservation. So you can see, yes, men and women were part of the same system of work. They needed each other, but it was not relaxed, number one, and like you are close to me in that sense, right? It was not, uh, look, we need to go fix a power line at night. We're doing some test on that power line. We're testing whatever we're testing. But it just so happened the two people who are assigned to that area of the power line, it's me and this girl. And if it's me and this girl and this work is done at night, because we're male and female, naturally would seek each other. And if like like decently good looking, over time, there might be some sort of attraction, and then things might happen from there. You see, it's like these kind of situations. Maybe historically they were happening. We were not there. I was not there, but the extent and the ease at which they happen now, I definitely think it's a lot more. So you have the situations where this young man, young women working on a power line, doing some testing, whatever they are doing there, they work regularly by Busu Balwa Bedi. And then yeah, one thing leads to another in the sense that they like each other or they start dating. Those are the realities of the world that we're living in, right? Those things did not exist back then. Now, like I said before, all good and well if the women appreciate your advances. What happens, Hasselbad? Now, historically, because men and women would be separate in their work but intertwined, they do see each other. Right? Like, don't get me wrong, they do see each other. Um, and then a man would approach a woman, and then if a woman says no, in the best case scenario, then the man accepts it and then it ends there. And maybe the girl talks about it with her friends, or it doesn't matter. Hoo-ha. My dad is saving me for this gentleman down the road. There's some sort of arranged thing happening there. Um, that's what that could happen, right? However, now men and women are in the same space. Man likes girl doesn't like the advance of this guy. Maybe because she already has a guy, just doesn't find the guy attractive, whatever. There is now a third element here, a third judge, illing HR. Because depending on who you are and the extent at which the woman finds you irritating, you can actually be dealt with and dealt with decisively. Now, what used to be a girl passes by with a molodi, mama, skopo valo wena, man. That same sentence becomes sexual harassment. Like in the same category as things like rape and you got naked and you pulled out your dick. That line becomes that. It's not, yeah, she found you irritating, but she walked away and you didn't do anything to her. And then, it's part of life, blah, blah, blah. Both of you forget about it within 10 minutes. Now, she can't forget about it in 10 minutes because she sees you every day. And maybe she particularly doesn't like you. So, hey, pizza ichar, amando guy. Such and such one now, sexual harassment. Or it's you guys are used to talking and with sexual innuendos or whatever those things are, you're flirting. But for whatever reason, one day she just isn't feeling you that way. or you offended her. I'm just saying there is now another person involved, ailing HR. She can just easily say, um, this guy is making unwanted advances, and then yeah, you need to deal with him. And serious companies do not take sexual harassment claims lightly. So what you thought was a natural or racheta, nalimogel, you're used to sexual innuendos, but for whatever reason now she's not feeling it. That thing becomes evidence for you were sexually harassing her. In fact, they could even say, as it's happening now with this judge president, that you see when she sent back that laughing emoji, yeah, it was under pressure because you are a manager or whatever. So I do not know how this thing is going to be navigated out, because for the foreseeable future, men and women are going to be in the same space, working together. Those same elements of attraction, of sexual desires, of liking someone, of loving someone, are still there because we are human, and design says that we want to be with each other. However, those very same systems can be taken advantage of, or misunderstandings can become legal cases that can even destroy a person's life. I don't know, guy. My solution is, men, just don't risk it. Don't like anyone at work. I don't know. Like, just don't do it. Be very serious about your job. Know what you're there for. Get the most out there, you know. Avoid don't be rude, but avoid conversations that are too friendly with your colleagues. At least that way you're safe. Like, I would admit, like, I talk whatever I want to talk with anyone. I say or some I say things that are inappropriate, things that are harsh, and all sorts of things at work. And that's not very wise. Maybe one is lucky that they have not got into trouble by now. And I don't mean in the context of sexual harassment, I just mean just generally. I say whatever, political things, religious things, things against women. I'm a man, of course. So when I do say things against women, they think you have an issue with women, but it's like, no, I think I am in the pursuit of truth here. So if a woman is doing something incorrect, or there's something particularly bad about common women, why wouldn't I talk about it? Because the aim is to try and understand it and see if there's solutions or how I can navigate it personally. So I speak about these things very freely. Sorry, very, very freely. So there is a lot happening in the space. And yeah, I really do not know what's the I really don't know what advice one could give, except just, yeah, keep quiet. Oh yeah, and by the way, here's one funny thing about the judge president. Ke a hopola ne ke blomele Mamang uh, and it's on a Friday evening, so we keep Sabbath, right? And then Mamang Atsumi Sahabona, so we're just chilling, and then Ubula phone ya high. I think we look at TikTok, and then what appears, it's a video. That video did not even play for like 3 seconds. I see like it's a family there. I'm like, okay, that family is definitely Masabata. Number one. Number two, that's Judge Mbenenge. And then kere me Batak Masabata. Oh yeah, the JP is our member, the church member. Kere what? Oh yeah, like I know him. She grew up in the church. Like yeah. Come to baby no bina di kwai. Kere hey, bana man of God, the bana. Kere bana. The eldership. Like, bruh, why are you on the SABC talking about emojis? And yeah, I said you must take off your jacket because I wanted to see your full body. I'm like, oh, the man of God. This is bad. And look, I'm laughing. I'm laughing because I am not surprised something like that happens, right? I am not doing that whole thing. Yeah, I'm one of the man of God, a church elder, a man who has a family, gray hair. How could you do such a thing? It's like, why wouldn't he? Why wouldn't he do such a thing? Because the presumption when you say, how could you do such a thing? You're assuming that men and women or humanity is perfect and it has no flaws. And it's weird because you are human too. You know yourself. You know yourself. And also just because you exceed and excel morally in one section of your life doesn't mean that you excel in all moral spheres. It's like to me, I wasn't like, hey elder, it's like okay, it's unfortunate that this guy did this thing. Yeah, let's see what's gonna happen. Let's just hear the evidence. But he must be dealt with, Derek. The elder must be dealt with. He must be put in front of the church and be told, Orontate, it does not work this way. We are sanctioning you or we are sitting you down for a while. Kind of again, sanctioning is like they sit you down for a while or disfellowship in you. It's like that day, Hatako Seni, at least on paper. So, like literally, I mean on paper, like church membership, but they would allow you to come to church. But you would have no rights in the church. Rights mean voting, I guess. And no one chasing you for your tithe. That's it. Maybe that's an advantage. But yeah. So yeah, that's what would happen to him. Like he needs to be disciplined. And one could say, okay, so Blaze, if you're saying that no one is morally perfect, blah 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 blah, why would you want him to be dealt with? There is a reason. So the kind of offense that he has done, because he's a man who is married and with his kid, and he has brought so much shame to his family, it's not the same as any other sin. Like I said, it just brought so much shame to his family. Um, there is a rot in society that needs to be dealt with, and any serious Christian movement has to be clear about where it stands when it comes to sexual immorality. So just because a person fails morally, sexually, even the panel that gets to make these decisions and judge if a person is innocent or guilty of bringing shame to the name of Christ, even that panel, they could have their own faults, right? But you are the one who was caught. It just because I did something wrong does not mean that wrong does not exist. If you did something bad and I say that you have done something bad, you can say, yeah, Blaze, but you also did this thing that is bad. I'm like, yeah, I did it. So fine. We will still have to discipline. So I discipline you, you discipline me. But the point of the discipline is to firstly remind us of the seriousness of the problem. So sometimes when you are living in sin, you forget just how bad sin is and how destructive it is. And you sometimes lose sight of what's at stake. Your soul. Now people can say, my soul, I don't see it, it's far, blah, blah, blah. So maybe the stakes of that is not that high based on your relationship with the man called Jesus. But the other implications, it's like the real life stuff that in your life, sin does ruin you. Like it changes your mind and how you think and how you behave. Now, when it comes to adultery, it involves other people, the betrayal, the shame that you bring to your family, the possible risk of losing your wife and kids. It's just so destructive. So we have to be reminded of the seriousness of that sin. And those of us who are watching from the outside as this man is being dealt with, it can serve as a sermon for us. So it's not a yeah, limtwiri, yeah. It serves for me as a young man who is not married. As I see that process happen, I'm like, hey, you see, bruh, as you listen to how this man of God fell into this terrible sin, you see how Luena could easily fall into that. You remember that jokes that you do with your female colleagues? You see how this thing can easily escalate from jokes to eggplant emojis and so forth, right? Maybe even escalating to meeting outside the office and actually doing something about those peach and eggplant emojis. Like you see how it can quickly escalate. That's what that process of discipline serves as. It's a sermon for us who are looking. For if people saying it's judging, like, yeah, we judge, everyone judge. To judge is to weigh things, right? This is not condemnation to someone to hell. No one can do it. It's actually impossible. That kind of judge is only God can do it, literally. What we are doing here on earth is to weigh things and say, yeah, this is clearly wrong according to what we know about God's law. And you have brought disrepute to yourself and the name of Christ. And those of us who are listening and watching have to know that's serious. And those who are not part of the flock need to know that this is the position of Christ on these things. And the people he left in charge to persuade the world of the gospel take these claims very seriously, because even sinners and people who are not Christians or who are not religious know that betrayal is not a nice thing. So how can we who claim to be in the love of God, proclaiming the love of God, pursuing the love of God, and representing Christ's morals moral imperatives, how can we be then weak on these things? So the judge president has to be dealt with after this whole thing that is happening in the media. He has to be dealt with by the church elders. However, I'm afraid that that won't happen because he's a powerful man. He has gray hair. I suspect that he has been in the church for a very long time. And yeah, like I said, he's a judge president. He sings. Those things in my church, Muna, you're a superstar, bruh. I suspect he's gonna get away with it. Judge president out here, I don't know how much they earn. What if it's like 200,000 rand a month? Monotono tla type ya 20,000. You think people are gonna now pull up their suits and their pens and like, and that they were dealing with you, or we're even disfellowshipping you, which means that we want you. You're not obligated to pay us your tithes. I don't think that's gonna happen. I bet some money that nothing's going to happen to that gentleman, a man of that power. Mo e lefatshe mona, bra. Even amongst God's people, power matters, and it matters greatly. And we have seen it mattering in our own church, in certain branches. We have heard obscene things from men, and nothing got done to them. We've had obscene things happening from older women, and nothing happened to them because of their position in the church, on their usefulness to the church. So I doubt anything's going to happen to him, and that's rather unfortunate. That's rather unfortunate, because then we, as the congregants, but also outsiders looking in, we miss out on that great lesson about the pain of betrayal, the consequence of betrayal. Like just imagine the wife, bruh. Maybe the wife will kakwan because maybe they're a bit older. Like, what about the kids? Yo, over city that all, but people know who your father is, and now it's like your father's on television for saying some other woman must take off her blazer because over wana melo high. Aye, bruh. Aye, time man. Oh, aye. This is bad. Again, I'm not saying that these things don't happen. I'm above them. My friends are above them. We don't care. If there's an opportunity to learn, we have to enact that lesson. If you are found, you have to be made known. Your sin has to be made known so that we all know that God does not tolerate these things. But beyond that, I wish the man of God all the best. It's terrible that, look, he has gray hairs. He's probably going to retire. Like, it would have been nice for the man to retire spectacularly, but now he's gonna have this stain on his character. And yeah, man, that's the nature of sin. It destroys your reputation. So, no matter the amount of work he has done, I'm assuming as a Christian man, I'm hoping, right? I'm hoping that he was good to his staff, to his employees throughout his whole career. I hope he did well as a judge. I'm hoping that he looked out for the poor, against the rich, and all those things that Christ calls us to do. That's my hope. I'm hoping that he was a good man in the church and a good example to a lot of young men. I'm hoping that's what he did. But this one event kind of erases that. It's unfortunate in people's minds. Not to me. I don't see it that way. I think I know that people are more than individual events, right? So yes, you did this thing. We deal with it, but I believe you are more than that mistake because I am not my mistakes. Definitely, mine may not be the same as his, but I'm not that. Like, so I have like a problem of temper. Like, I flip out very easily, but I'm not my temper. It would be very weird if people were to take my temper. All they say is that to say Blaze the one who has temper. That would be rather unfortunate. So no, um, it's unfortunate what's happening to his reputation. He brought it upon himself, and I wish him all the best. I wish him all the best. And yeah, that is the case of Mbenenge. So I'll be watching it to see the conclusions. I don't know if the conclusions are out yet. So but I wonder now what's going to happen with the conclusions. Let me just see how much time I'm in now. 41. Yeah, no, let's leave it here because I could actually go into other things that have been happening during the week. But yeah, let's just leave it here. I think maybe August will talk more about gender-based violence in its broadness, and yeah, I'll be coming into some contradictory views there. Some people say that it's wrong to hit a woman. There's never a right, or there's never a right time or a situation where women should be hit. I would say, that statement is the most ridiculous statement ever. Doesn't mean that I'm saying that women should be beaten. I'm just saying that statement logically as an argument, that's just terrible. You can't say that no human being does not deserve violence. Who are they? They're above it. Awa, awa. Mo fatsing here. We can experience violence for a variety of things, right? If you experience violence when you are innocent, that's terrible. But sometimes your own action can call upon violence on you. You know, if God was able to raise hell and destroy, wipe out entire nations, men, women, including children, like, I don't get this thing, Yari. Some woman in 2025, she's above violence. I think it creates as a bad norm. I think there's something else that could be said. What could be said is that human beings should not settle disputes of violence. So if you have a son and a daughter in the same room, and as you talk to your son, you say, son, never settle disputes of violence. Don't resort to violence, but always be willing to defend yourself. Now, as I say that to my son, my daughter hears it. I think she gets the same message too, because I did not say to my son, son, you never hit a girl. And then my daughter hears it like, oh yeah, I never get hit. So let me go run around and raise hell because I can always say, I never get hit. Then that's the beginning of sorrows. That's the beginning of a society that has disorder driven by women who know that they can live without restraint. And then sometimes they could do it even to the wrong people, including law enforcement. Like, it can create a culture of self-entitlement that we do not need as a society. So that's what I mean by it, and say you can never say someone is beyond violence. It's not the correct teaching. You need to say something else. Violence is not an answer to anything. Okay, maybe I think there's situations for violence. Like, for instance, ending death. If death, in our case, to end sin, God will destroy a lot. So that's a violent act, but hey, it preserves the future of humanity. So that's where violence is necessary. But I mean, amongst us as human beings, yeah, we always have to pursue non-violence in our solutions. So we ought to teach each other, or teach our kids in a society. We have to have that culture of saying, let's not pursue violence at all. Let's always try to negotiate and find each other and compromise and live with the compromises and know that we can't always get our way. Let's learn to respect each other. You see, It's these things apply to a man, a woman, a son, a daughter, an uncle, a boss, a servant, a maid. You see, it's like those same principles, that message will apply to everyone. It's not some class of society they get exempt. Then by implication, they get exempt from violence. So by implication, they get to run amok and throw drinks into your face and you must just take it. Right? It's like, no. But anyway, we'll talk about that part towards um, August. And yeah, I hope I don't get into trouble with that. Because you know, in South Africa, there's no free speech per se. These companies want to come for you, even though you're not calling for violence, you're not saying anything mad. They just, I, anyway. So anyway, guys, I think that's it from my side. And yeah, I think let me end it here, and I'll see you next time. Will it?